Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another developer session. In one of my previous parts dealing with loading corridors and transitioning between scenes, we kind of had some issues with the lighting. Right, the lighting that was baked into each of our scenes was not really becoming active, at least not in a consistent way. And since then, what I've come to discover is that scene manager dot set active scene will trigger the lighting for, or rather, will trigger which scene's lighting that we're going to be using. So I've updated my initialize game mechanism to store a couple coroutines here because I want to make sure these things are done before we unload the initialization and just move over to having our other scenes in play. So I do when I'm looping over all the levels I'm going to load, I do a start coroutine to set the active scene when this level is finished loading. And that might take a couple frames or however long it takes for this scene to be loaded. In addition, we have our set player start position, which looks for the game object player start position and aligns the player with that object. And we do if we've checked to unload the scene on completion, we start another coroutine which yield returns those two coroutines if they've been set. And once that's done, it unloads the initialization scene. And what that's led us to is a properly lit scene. Whereas before, we'd be popping in, and let's just take this out. And as you can see, the scene has no ambient lighting of its own, because the lighting being used is gameplay objects lighting, which is the active scene. In the editor, I can change the active scene by either right-clicking and hitting Set Active Scene, or just double-clicking. You can see the lighting take place. However, because now we're setting the active scene within the code, we've resolved this issue. Now, there is another issue of this, though, which is going to be our transition. So if you'll remember, in our indoor area 1, we've got this loading thing here, and it loads into a second section. So what we need to do is have the components we use for transitioning between areas also make use of the set active scene mechanism. So let's go take a look here real quick, because quite frankly, it's been a quick minute, and I don't really remember exactly which components are used. So we do have our level. Yeah, we've got our level enter trigger, which notifies our loading areas that the players entered the level. So let's go take a look at that, and that's probably within the same directory as our other components we need. Yeah, there's no scene manager, loading scene, or anything. We do have this loading area component and level information. Level information, where's that? Is that in the scene? It sure is. Yeah, that tells it the loading areas and loads those in. So just looking at this though, as a secondary step, like once they enter the loading area, we probably want to change the active scene as well. And with this being an open doorway, that transition is going to look stupid. But I think in the actual game, we're going to have an actual physical door that we need to interact with. And that interaction can trigger the change in the active scene. I think that'll act as a loading transition, even albeit a very brief one. Um, but really, in this case, what I'm concerned with is, let's look at the loading area. So our loading screen has this collider, and it's got this loading area, which has on trigger enter, and that's it, right? And this notification that it receives when the player enters an area. Um, yeah, we don't need to do anything in here. Yeah, so we have this unload, on notify player entered the level with this level name. If the level, okay, so in each of the connect levels, if the level is not equal to the level we've entered, we're unloading it. Otherwise, scene manager dot set active scene, and this takes the scene object itself, which I'm not getting up to this point, am I? Yeah. So we'll grab this here. And that should trigger our lighting change. So let's go back to our test indoor area. This guy's set to indoor area 1. Let's see if we notice any changes once we enter the second section. Don't mind that spooky skeleton. He's a new enemy type I'm testing with. Alright, so let's pop up here. So yeah, as we can see, the lighting changed. Similarly, down here, it looks a little brighter. Well, not quite that much brighter. But this clearly has some ambient lighting going on because of the way the lighting was set up and down there. And when we come in here, we no longer have that ambient lighting because we hit that trigger and actually set to that true lighting for the scene. So that definitely resolves our issue of the lighting being triggered appropriately. Just for, you know, shits and giggles, let's go ahead and see about rebuilding the lighting in every level and see if we get a more consistent look. Lighting, there you are. Bring you in, build. Do a little bit of waiting. Yeah, I mean, this is a test area, so I'm not too concerned with the exact visual effect of the lighting, just that we're making sure we're setting this active scene now that I've confirmed that setting the active scene actually does something. Yeah, want to make sure we capture that correctly. So that's taken a few seconds, but it's kind of zipping through a little quickly. Boy, that did have some work to do. Okay, so that looks good. Let's rebuild area 1. And I'm not sure what effect this will have, but we'll go ahead and rebuild the loading area as well. Even though the loading area doesn't actually have any lights in it. Alright. Now, let's see what happens here. Alright. There we go, as expected. Little spot where I missed the texture with the material. Oh boy, yeah, that did need rebuilt. I guess I hadn't rebuilt that in quite a while. But I'm seeing a few errors going on in here. What is this? In-crowd system? What is that? Toggle active on trigger collision. I'm not sure what that means. Spooky skeleton. Alright, well, I'm not sure exactly what that means. But I'll do a little Googling and see what comes up for that. But, in the interim, I can see the active area being changed in the editor at the very least. So, I'm pretty happy with that. So, anyways, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care.